Okay, let's dive in. Today, we're looking into fermentation optimization.
Fermentation optimization.
Yeah, it might sound a bit technical,
Right.
but stick with us. We've got some really cool stuff from Teslagen
Okay.
about how they're using software to completely change the way we think about this ancient process. Ready to get small?
Absolutely. Let's jump right in.
So I guess before we go too crazy,
Right.
let's start with the, well, I guess everyone knows fermentation, right? I mean, we all know it's behind beer and bread,
Of course, yeah.
yogurt. But what's actually going on, like at the microscopic level?
Well, you're basically using tiny organisms, yeast, bacteria. They break down sugar.
Oh.
And when they do that, they make byproducts, alcohol, acids, gases.
Right. Yeah.
It's a totally natural process. People have been using it for centuries.
Right. Yeah. And so now we're talking about optimizing it with software.
Exactly.
Why is that important now? Why is this so important all of a sudden?
It's all about the bioeconomy. It's not just food and drinks anymore. We're talking biofuels, pharmaceuticals, even bioplastics.
Wow.
And if we want to make that happen, on a big scale, we have to be as efficient as possible.
Right.
We have to make it really predictable, too.
Right. So how do we do that?
Well, that's where Teslagen comes in.
Okay.
This platform promises to make it faster, more collaborative. You can preserve all the knowledge.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What is the secret? What is the secret sauce?
One of the most interesting parts is how it connects to lab equipment. So you can imagine, if you're a scientist and you have to manually collect data from a bioreactor, it's so time-consuming. You have to constantly be adjusting settings.
Well, I guess.
But Teslagen takes all that data and puts it right into the platform.
Oh, wow.
So scientists can make decisions, right away.
That's incredible. So it's basically like a digital assistant.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm kind of curious about how the software actually optimizes the whole process. I saw that they mentioned this thing called sequential model-based optimization.
Right, yeah.
I have to say, I don't really know what that means.
Sure, yeah. It sounds a little intimidating. It's like, imagine you're baking bread, right?
Okay.
Sequential model-based optimization is like a super smart recipe that analyzes everything. How the dough is rising, the temperature, the humidity,
Yeah.
And it tweaks things as it goes, like the proving time and all that, to make sure you get the best possible loaf.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of data are we talking about here? What is it actually measuring?
It's tracking all the important stuff for fermentation.
Okay.
Things like titer, so that's like the concentration of the product you want.
Right.
Also, the growth rate of the microorganisms, the pH levels, like how much nutrients are being used, all those kinds of things. But here's what's really cool. The software uses machine learning, so it actually gets better over time.
Oh, wow.
It's like it can spot patterns and make these little adjustments that people might miss,
So it's almost like the recipe is getting better every time you bake.
Exactly.
That's a really great analogy.
It's constantly learning and tweaking itself based on the data it collects.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that, it's not replacing scientists. It's just a powerful tool to help them.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like a really advanced tool.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, I saw them mention this thing called manufacturing readiness level.
Oh, right.
What does that even mean?
It's basically a way to measure how ready a certain technology is for production, like on a big scale.
Okay.
So the higher the level, the closer it is to being, commercially viable.
Okay.
It really seems like Teslagen is focused on that, like bridging the gap between research and the real world.
That's really cool. But I have to ask, are there any downsides to using software for all this?
Well, it's important to remember that software is a tool, right? Like any tool, it has its limits. If you rely on it too much, you might not really understand what's happening.
Right.
Like the actual science behind it. It's like using GPS all the time.
Correct.
You get to your destination, but you don't learn the roads.
Right. Exactly. That's a great point. So what's the big picture here? Like, how could this technology change things?
Well, imagine a future where we're making biofuels in a much more efficient way, sustainably, developing life-saving drugs so much faster.
Wow.
Creating new materials that, are biodegradable, renewable.
Wow. That's amazing.
The possibilities are incredible.
It sounds like we're about to see a, fermentation revolution.
Yeah.
And if we can do all this now, I can't even imagine what the future holds.
Right.
Thanks for taking the time to really break this down.
Yeah, of
This has
course.
been a really fascinating deep dive.
It really has.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
A lot to think about.
A lot to think about.
All right.